psalm that David says was written in gold. It's this very important psalm for today. He's describing how faith is both elastic and rigid. It's elastic in the sense that there's liberty in faith. We have the ability to call things that are not as though they were. We have the ability to stretch out on faith. But then there's a point where we're stepping outside of the ark of safety. And we talked about that some in the Sunday school. You were talking about the debate with matters of the homosexual lifestyle. And that's the thing is, David was pointing out this, that there's some responsibility and some accountability that we have. God in his grace allows us to live how we choose. Joshua said, choose this day whom you will serve. And right now, while the earth remains, or while you have breath in your life, you can serve who you will. But he makes it clear in the psalm that unless you're serving the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, unless you're doing his will and doing his way, ultimately you will reach destruction. And David makes it clear. But David had an insight that was unusual for the Old Testament. God gave him a vision into the scheme, the divine scheme of things. The fact that there is redemption, I believe he saw the coming of Jesus Christ because Jesus was in the line of David. But with that same redemption, we're free, but we're also accountable. And we're going to have to give an account for the life that we live. Amen? And so moving to this stage in our discussion here, we can assimilate two simple points that I'm going to make today as it relates to going ahead and freeing ourselves. Two little points that we can get from these texts. Number one, freedom means stepping out of the box. Freedom means stepping out of the box. Many times in life we feel kind of trapped in a box, whether that's a particular job situation, whether that's a situation in the home or in our family life. We might feel trapped in a box. But to totally free ourselves, Jesus allows us to step out of those restrictive boxes that we're in. Now, boxes are not always a bad thing. There was that famous book, Everything I Needed to Know, I learned in kindergarten. For you see, they had the sandbox that was designed to play around, and it was fun. But you know, in that sandbox, we were also learning to share space and share resources. I'll never forget the playground in Worthdale Community Center we're from. And in that sandy area, they had the little things that you get on and bounce on. They had the slide. But you know what? We had to learn to share those resources. Everybody couldn't be on the same instrument or the playground at the same time. We had to learn to share space and resources. But I will say this. I think as a nation, as a world, we're not doing too good of a job of learning to share resources right now. Old Russ was talking on the radio yesterday. We were listening, driving along, talking about, well, you know, the current president is talking about clean energy and this type of thing. But he said Americans don't want that. We want our car with the gas and to go where we want to. But you know what? If this world is going to survive a little bit longer, we're going to have to learn to share the resources in the proverbial sandbox. There really isn't enough for us to use and use and use. So my point is here that God has set the boundaries. If you think of the world as like that sandbox. And guess what? We're going to have to learn to share the resources if we're going to free ourselves, because if we run out of resources, then we'll all suffer. So we're going to have to learn to share if we're going to go ahead and free ourselves. And then sometimes